Thank you so much for joining us, and let's dive straight in tonight with Ukraine, where it has been a truly grim week. And yet, Ukrainian citizens have continued to show incredible signs of resistance, proving that they truly are the fuck-around-and-find-out country of Eastern Europe.
Shmatko is a grandmother and a retired economist. These are the only weapons she has, but she says she's ready to fight. Let those Russian shits come here, she says. We are ready to greet them.
Do you have a message for President Putin?
Putin.
It's a popular sentiment on the streets. This man's sign is too vulgar to translate.
Oh, is it? Well, we might actually be able to help you there, because this is the network that airs shows about high schoolers doing heroin and hosting orgies before homeroom, so we have no such problems. So I can tell you that that sign translates to Putin is a dickhead, which he clearly very much is. Also, it is notable that dickhead was too vulgar for CNN, but Molotov grandma got to say, let those Russian shits come, with no problem. It seems that she is above the law, as she should be. Ukrainians' defiance and sense of humour in the midst of such a brutal, outmatched fight has understandably captured the world's imagination, although what some have chosen to do with that imagination has left a little to be desired.
To me, Zelensky is a cross between Churchill and Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, he's just incredible.
Just such a great story / maybe one day a movie.
And people were quick to cast the film on Twitter, saying Jeremy Renner would make the perfect Zelensky. However,
The backlash to that was way too early. We're in the middle of a freaking war here.
yeah, a little insensitive, but whenever it does get made, it's gonna be epic.
OK, hold on. Maybe wait for the actual war to end before we start casting the fucking movie. But to be fair, yeah, a little insensitive, but we're going to run with it anyway, is the official motto of TMZ. And spare a thought there for Volodymyr Zelensky. He has got enough going on right now without being described as a Jeremy Renner type. That's not a nice thing to say about someone. Now, as for Russia, they've responded to worldwide criticism by clamping down hard on dissent at home. Putin just signed a law effectively criminalising any public opposition to or independent news reporting about this war, and authorities have blocked Twitter and Facebook and are threatening to block Wikipedia, which is an outright attack on anyone who has something due tomorrow. The Education Ministry there even produced a nationwide online lesson for children featuring a little girl asking questions about what was going on there and getting some spectacular answers.
And here, I have a question. Special operation. What does it mean?
It's when goals lead to peace. We do not attack residential buildings. We do not hit the civilians. We do not destroy the social infrastructure, kindergartens, schools, water utilities, substations.
Except you've literally just done almost all those things. Russian strikes have destroyed hospitals, schools and homes. Also, I really don't want to be giving notes to state propaganda, but if you're going to lie to a child's face, maybe cast a less creepy man to do that. May I suggest film actor Jeremy Renner? People seem to want him involved in this somehow. And yet, despite Russia's efforts to control this narrative, we continue to see public protest there. And some Russian celebrities, politicians, and even a few oligarchs have started cautiously speaking out, which is understandable. Not only is this war morally indefensible, but the impacts of global sanctions are now being felt at every level of Russian society. The economy there is in complete freefall, and just watch the level of despair in this exchange on a Russian financial network.
Hello, Alexander.
Hello, I won't say good day.
Yeah, no one does these days.
Jokes aside, let's do this quick. I'm sending regards to Sergei Usachenko, who 12 to 13 years ago drank to the death of the stock market. Today, I'm drinking seltzer. Dear stock market, you were close to us, you were interesting to us. Rest in peace, dear comrade.
Wow! That guy toasted the death of the Russian stock market, saying you were close to us, you were interesting to us, and then chugged some seltzer. Which is striking, but also sounds less like how you'd mourn a financial system, and more like how you'd give a eulogy for a clown you don't know all that well personally. You were close to us, you were interesting to us. Yet for all the Ukrainian resistance and Russian discontent, the fact is Russia is continuing to advance and committing human rights abuses along the way, and it looks like casualties are only going to rise, especially given after a call with Putin on Thursday, French President Emmanuel Macron was reportedly convinced that Putin wants to seize the whole of Ukraine and that the worst is to come. So sadly, we have no idea what's going to happen next or just how bad things could get. And what determines the outcome here may not be Ukrainian resistance or Russian propaganda, so much, unfortunately, as one man's determination to be, if I may quote one of the most applicable phrases in any language, a total fucking dickhead. And now, this.
And now, the line every bachelor and bachelorette is forced to say.
Clear waters, blue skies, sunshine. It's magical. Seriously, it's like a perfect place to fall in love.
Tahiti is the perfect place to fall in love.
Chiang Mai is the perfect place to fall in love. St. Thomas is the perfect place to fall in love.
Croatia is the perfect place to fall in love.
Bimini is the perfect place to fall in love.
Iowa is the perfect place to fall in love.
Wisconsin is the perfect place to fall in love.
Fort Lauderdale is a beautiful place to fall in love.
This is the perfect place.
Perfect place. It's like the perfect place. Perfect place to fall in love.
Fall in love. Fall in love.
I'm in Deadwood, South Dakota. This is the perfect place to either fall in love or get shot in the back.
Moving on. Our main story tonight concerns justice. It's the thing best served by Steve Harvey.
This court is going to award you a VIP moment. You and your girl finna give you an additional $5,000 from me and my court, and you take your girl to Vegas and party like it's 1999. That's my verdict, and that's how I see it.
Incredible, right? Just top to bottom great, from awarding a woman a VIP moment, as if that phrase means anything, to the entire gallery clapping for the plaintiff, including the defendant, by the way, to demanding she organise a vacation with all of her friends, every Google Calendar's nightmare. And that is saying nothing of the MVP of that clip, Steve Harvey's little golden gavel, which he's making a full 5-course meal out of. Honestly, I wish I had one of those, except, hold on, I actually do. Clomp, 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 clomp. Order in the court. Clomp, clomp. Big man, tiny hammer alert. Clompity, clompity, clomp. I'm a gavel guy now. Get used to it. Sadly, though, not all courts are as infallible as Steve Harvey's. As we've discussed many times on this show, trials can go awry for a number of reasons, from prosecutorial misconduct, to underfunded and overworked public defenders, to flawed jury selection, to how we elect judges, to problems with mandatory minimums, all the way to flimsy jizz analysis. Luckily, though, as pop culture has repeatedly taught us, there is a remedy for wrongful convictions built right into the system.
The fight that's on appeal, it isn't over.
I'll get the conviction overturned on appeal.
Of course, I'll be appealing.
I'll appeal this all the way to the Supreme Court.
We will appeal this.
Don't say a thing. We'll appeal.
OK, hold on, because let's just acknowledge Juliana Margulies there, because she is capital A acting in that moment, doing absolutely everything with absolutely nothing. Juliana Margulies is doing more in this 3-second clip than The Rock has done in his entire movie career. You heard me. I said what I said. Clomp, clomp, clomp. The Rock's been officially clomped. But the idea that you can simply fight a wrongful conviction and get exonerated runs deep. But the truth is, it is far more difficult than you might expect, even if there's compelling evidence that you are innocent. Take Lamar Johnson, who was convicted in 1995 of murder. But between his conviction and his sentencing, one of the real killers wrote him a letter that you would think would have changed everything for him.
The letter opens by saying it's pretty much messed up. Johnson was convicted when he didn't do anything, then explains who did it and what happened. Believe it or not, even with the letter, this is still a fight, and the justice system is trying to figure out how to free an innocent man.
I never expected that this case would go the way that it did, that I would end up charged with it and much less convicted for it, and would have to be here for the last 20-some years trying to prove that I didn't do it.
OK, so there's clearly a lot to unpack there, from the fact that letter didn't say it was messed up, it said it was fucked up, to the fact that it opened with, "What's up, dude?" which is a weird way to greet a person who's in prison for something that you did. How do you expect Johnson to respond to that? Oh, not much. You? But it is not just that letter. Both the real killers have now signed multiple affidavits swearing that they committed the crime and that Johnson was not involved. And if life were a game of Monopoly, you'd assume that's it. That's an automatic get-out-of-jail-free card. Unfortunately, though, life is not a game of Monopoly. For one thing, no one these days can afford to buy property, and top hats are only worn by Amy Sherman-Palladino and the Babadook. So, as of now, Johnson is still in prison, and it's very much up in the air whether he'll get out. And if you're wondering how the fuck that can be the case, that is what our story tonight is about. It conceals all the reasons why, if you're wrongfully convicted, even if there is compelling evidence of your innocence, it's really hard to be exonerated. And let's start with the fact that the Constitution guarantees the writ of habeas corpus, which is to protect against unlawful imprisonment. Basically, you have a right to challenge your incarceration, and you can do that in both state and federal court. But as this defence attorney explains, there's a major limitation on that right.
It's not just enough to be innocent. I mean, that doesn't get you anywhere. You have to have something else to be able to get back in court on.
Yeah, that's true. In general, innocence itself is not an appealable issue, a fact already so shocking it might prompt you to go the full Margulies. She was in the background of that scene, giving it that kind of commitment. Now, what you can appeal on is any shocking new evidence that wasn't available during your original trial, or a claim that your constitutional rights were violated during it. But that's already a long shot, especially because while you have a right to an attorney at your original trial, you are not guaranteed one after your conviction. Most states do provide one in death penalty cases, but even then, there is no guarantee that they be competent. And attorneys can be incompetent. Take Geddes Anderson. He represented a man named Edward Lee Elmore in a murder case, and he lost it. Elmore was sentenced to death and, while on death row, appealed his conviction. He petitioned for a different lawyer, but was told that he had to stick with Anderson, who had only spent 8 days preparing for his original trial, and who can only be described as the most Tennessee Williams of characters.
In retrospect, perhaps I should have asked for more time. I never had proclaimed to be, the best lawyer that ever graced the courtroom.
Yeah, well, that's not great, is it? The only thing worse than being a bad lawyer is being a bad lawyer with low self-esteem. In the words of RuPaul, if you can't defend yourself, how in the hell are you going to defend somebody else? And the thing is, you do need an exceptionally good attorney for an appeal. Post-conviction law is incredibly difficult to understand, even for a seasoned attorney. And you want to get it right because any technical error can result in your appeal being dismissed. So many wrongful conviction cases are won or lost on technicalities, even ones that are pretty compelling. Take Ricky Kidd, a man wrongfully convicted of murder in 1997, despite the fact no physical evidence linked him to the murders. The case against him was littered with police incompetence and prosecutorial misconduct, and his own lawyer failed to chase down exonerating evidence, such as the fact that around the time of the murder took place, Kidd was in a sheriff's office applying for a gun permit, which is a pretty fucking solid alibi. Kidd's best grounds to appeal were that he had ineffective counsel at his first trial. But unfortunately, when his new lawyers filed that appeal, they failed to include that argument, so the state fought to keep him locked up, which is both outrageous and something that the assistant state AG was comically unwilling to discuss.
You don't have any concern that a police commissioner and former prosecutor say he's innocent? I mean, according to your name is here, right, in the court document, and you're not even arguing that he's guilty, just technicalities that he missed his chance to properly appeal. You don't seem concerned about this. Do you even think he's guilty? No answer? I mean, you're spending taxpayer money to fight this case. You're keeping him locked up in prison. Is that the best use of taxpayer money? Y'all have a good day, sir.
Wow. Honestly, I'm a bit conflicted there, because obviously that man is a heartless monster, smirking like a wax statue of Paul Giamatti when a man's life is at stake. But I do also respect his ice-cold attempt at ignoring small talk in an elevator. Elevators are flying coffins that demand total silence from each of their pallbearers. We have to reach agreement on this. And while it's not important, quick shout-out to the guy waving at the camera in the background there. Hey, buddy! Hey! Bet you had no idea at the time that your wave was underscoring a grotesque failure of our entire judicial system, but it was! It was! Bye! But that actually brings us to a key point here, which is when the whole criminal justice system is geared toward getting a conviction, it has very little interest in seeing its work undone. So, for instance, I mentioned earlier that one of the few ways to get a post-conviction appeal is to argue that you have new evidence to introduce, but you still have to be able to show that it would have changed the outcome at your trial. And prosecutors will fight that notion hard. When one of the West Memphis Three tried to get a new trial based on new evidence, including DNA, an assistant AG appeared before the state Supreme Court to try and talk them out of considering it, citing the harm that could do.
What harm is there in allowing him to present all evidence?
Well, the harm is in the finality of a criminal judgment that is not demonstrated to have any constitutional or procedural defect, and just to try it again. I mean, you're suggesting, it sounds to me, Justice Brevis, though, every 15 or 17 years or so, we really ought to try cases again to reestablish guilt. So the harm is to the criminal justice system's interest in finality.
Hold on. The harm is to the finality? But if the final decision could be wrong, you should want to make sure that you get it right. There's a reason that La La Land didn't just keep the Oscar after Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty skin-smiled their way through that mistake. But while thankfully those judges were sceptical, many defer to prosecutors. That was the case with Edward Lee Elmore. Remember? The guy whose initial lawyer was Insecure Foghorn Leghorn. The key evidence against him were hairs at a murder scene that police claimed were of African-American descent. But there were no photos of those hairs at the scene, which was already suspicious, and the state later found a box of evidence previously claimed to be missing by police that contained Caucasian hair recovered from the victim's body during her autopsy. But when the judge was presented with this pretty important new information, he simply wasn't interested.
This is a completely different case than what the jury heard. If this is not enough to grant somebody a new trial, then when is post-conviction relief ever appropriate?
Unexpectedly, rather than adjourn and read the filings before ruling, Judge Kynard issued his decision on the spot.
All motions are denied.
Oh, it gets even worse, because that judge went on to say that obviously the evidence should have been disclosed to counsel, but as far as impacting the original verdict, I don't think it would have. And in closing, he said, "Good luck to everybody, I'm out of here." Which is a terrible way to wrap up a court proceeding. The best, of course, being this.
That's my verdict, and that's how I see it.
Absolutely unimpeachable. But the thing is, a quick ruling like that is not remotely unusual. Many times, appeals judges will just sign the state prosecutor's documents without even changing the heading. One study looked at post-conviction appeals in the largest county in Texas and found judges adopted the prosecutor's findings verbatim in 96% of their rulings. And if at this point, it seems like our whole system is set up to preserve its process, even at the cost of human life, well, during one death row appeal before the Missouri Supreme Court, for this man, Joe Amrine, one assistant AG basically admitted as much.
You're suggesting if we don't find there's a constitutional violation, then even if we find that Mr. Amrine is actually innocent, he should be executed?
The U.S. Supreme Court...
I'm asking, is that what you're arguing?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Holy shit! You know you are on the wrong side of an argument when you're asked, should innocent people be executed? And you say, that's correct, Your Honor. That's the kind of question that only has one right answer, like, is the Queen dead? The obvious answer to that being, yes, absolutely. She's been dead since 2007, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Order in the court. Order in the court. And so far, everything we've discussed has been at the state level. But what about if you appeal up to the federal court? Well, in some cases, they do step in to overturn egregious convictions. But as this defense attorney will tell you, that's very much the exception.
We all understand that the role of an appeals court is to get it right, and if it gets it wrong, then it will be fixed down the road in the system. That's the belief that we all have in the system. If some court gets it wrong, another court is going to come along and set it right. Federal courts can only grant relief if a state court was unreasonably wrong, was so wrong that no other judge, no other fair-minded judge could possibly agree with the state court. That's an incredibly high bar.
Yeah, it really is, because no fair-minded judge could possibly agree is a hugely high bar to clear. Reasonable people disagree all the time on issues like which way the toilet paper roll should go, or how a tortoise would wear clothes. Is it over the shell or under the shell? There's a vibrant discussion to be had here. There will be dissenting voices. The truth is, federal courts' hands are tied pretty tightly by something called AEDPA. It stands for the Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act. It was passed in the 1990s in the wake of the Oklahoma City bombing, and at the time, the justification for it was we cannot let terrorists like Timothy McVeigh or any prisoners on death row appeal their cases endlessly. Here is the argument back then in a nutshell.
What about the fact that many of them now sit on death row for years and years and years with access to libraries and computers and everything they could possibly need so that they continue to drag out this process? There's got to be an end to it.
OK, that's actually an even worse argument than it seems, because remember, this was 1995. The only thing computers were good for back then were Minesweeper and still images of Cal Ripken Jr. I'm guessing that in 1995, if you typed post-conviction habeas corpus appeal into Lycos.com, your hard drive would spark into a full-blown house fire. So prisoners sometimes having access to computers clearly wasn't the real problem here. And although EDPA sounds like it only applied to terrorists and death row inmates, it applies to everyone. And in addition to that high bar that gutted federal review of state convictions, it also imposed a strict one-year deadline to file a federal appeal once your conviction is finalised, which I know might sound like a lot of time to you, but it really isn't. A federal appeal is a massive undertaking, often involving doing new research, speaking to experts, witnesses, previous attorneys, and investigators. 1 year cannot be enough, as proven by the fact that post-EDPA, the deadline had been missed at least 80 times in death row cases. 80 times! Death row prisoners went to the trouble of filing an appeal only to be told, sorry, too late, it doesn't count. And even when filings do come in on time, that high bar means that they're less likely to be successful, to the point that while before EDPA, 40% of death row defendants succeeded in getting their verdict or sentence overturned in federal court. A decade after it, that rate had dropped to just 10%. And I will say this, there was one senator who saw all of these problems with EDPA pretty clearly at the time, and he warned against what might happen.
This just doesn't make sense, in my view, Mr. President, as a practical matter or as a matter of principle. We should not, in our haste to hurry up executions, lose sight of our commitment to constitutional values. We should not endorse proposals that increase the chance that where execution is imminent, that an innocent person be executed. We should not, I believe, sacrifice certainty in the name of speed or fairness in the name of vengeance.
Yeah, pretty good, right? Pretty good. I know it is weird to see Joe Biden actually on the right side of a criminal justice issue in the 90s. It's like watching home movies and seeing your bitterly divorced parents passionately Frenching at each other. It's just hard to imagine a world where that ever happened. So enjoy that feeling for just a moment. Are you enjoying it? I really hope you are. Because now I have to tell you that Biden actually voted for the bill in the end. And you don't get to be surprised by that. The guy is who he is. And all of that brings us to today, where many wrongfully convicted people are still locked up with a racially disproportionate impact. Innocent black people are about 7 times more likely to be convicted of murder than innocent white people. And at the same time, those who actually committed the crimes are still at large, as the Philly DA points out.
Justice means that you try to do things that are proportional and you try to do things that are accurate. If you're trying to do things that are accurate, that means you do not want the guilty person who got away to continue to get away. And you also don't want the innocent person to stay in jail, because that ain't right. I mean, duh.
Yeah, he's right. Fucking duh. You've probably already been screaming that at your TV for the last 15 minutes, along with talk a bit slower and this guy's a furry, right? And that's my business, but I will say this, the clues are all there. But again, he is right. We know prosecutors are fallible, even when the stakes are incredibly high. And if you want to see this whole maddening system in one story, consider the case of Melissa Lucio. She went through the most horrific thing imaginable, the death of her 2-year-old daughter after a fall down a flight of stairs. But the police suspected foul play, and over the course of a marathon interrogation, the night of her daughter's death, lasting until 3 in the morning, they pushed her to confess to murder.
Basically, what they were doing is they were trying to make me admit that I was the one responsible for her fall. And I kept telling them that I hadn't hurt my daughter, and they were very vulgar, very, very rough, very persistent.
This is your chance to set it straight, because right now it looks like capital murder. Right now it looks like you're a cold-blooded killer. Now, are you a cold-blooded killer?
No, I'm not.
Or were you a frustrated mother who just took it out on her?
We knew somebody did it. We're trying to find out who did it.
Listen, look at me. It happens. Okay? We all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. We all get upset. We already know what happened. We already know what happened.
Look, I know that's upsetting to watch, but it's really important to see just how aggressive and manipulative the system can be in someone's most vulnerable moments that lead to things like false confessions. Because after all of that, she told those officers what they wanted to hear, that she had, in the past, spanked her daughter. The state then argued to the jury that that counted as a murder confession. And she was convicted in a trial where not only did the prosecution keep the jury from hearing psychologist testimony that could have spoken to her mental state at the time, but her own defense attorney decided not to call her other children to the stand who'd have testified that they never witnessed any physical abuse from her. And yet, when she tried to appeal her conviction to state court. The judge was apparently in such a hurry, he initially tried to rule for the prosecution before the defence had even filed their response, and once it got to federal court, a split ruling denied her appeal, but even the judges who ruled against her admitted there was expert testimony that, if jurors had only heard it, could have impacted the verdict, going on to acknowledge, we are all, though, working within the constraints of EDPA. Melissa Lucio is now scheduled to be executed on April 27th, next month. And to hear her prosecutor tell it, there's only one person to blame for that.
She has nobody to blame but herself. She has nobody to blame but herself. You know, and people say, well, she shouldn't be there, she shouldn't be there. Well, you know, she put herself there. Whose fault is it? Whose fault is it that she's there if it's not hers?
I mean, I can take a crack at that answer if you want, because it starts with not hers, and while it isn't a complete list, it includes the cops who badgered her, the Texans who voted for a governor who seems unwilling to intervene, Ted Cruz, I'm assuming, somehow, the 91 senators who voted for EDPA in 1996, Hammurabi for codifying capital punishment in ancient Babylon, and you for prosecuting based on a confession that wasn't even a confession, you fucking arsehole. So, with a system so fundamentally fucked, what do we do? Well, immediately, we can get rid of EDPA, and we should do that as soon as possible, especially as the will could actually be there, considering how against it Biden once briefly was. In addition, we should continue to address all of the many factors that lead to wrongful convictions in the first place, and when they do happen, we need to make sure that we've elected prosecutors who will undertake conviction integrity reviews, and governors who will use their pardon power to undo the state's mistakes. We need to make this a priority. Because right now we have a system where people can be wrongly convicted with bad defence attorneys and left to fight in a convoluted appeal system with little to no help. At which point it really feels like our system is essentially guilty until proven rich or lucky. And that has to change. Because we cannot keep letting the most vulnerable be casualties of a system that cares more about quick and final decisions than actually correct ones. That is my verdict, and that's how I see it. Clomp, clomp, motherfuckers. Clomp, clomp. And now, this.
And now, great moments in Steve Harvey's jurisprudence.
I'm about to hear a series of unbelievable statements. We in here arguing about ass, or we arguing about this funeral? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is not funny.
No, it's not.
It's really not funny. Boy, you way more stupid than I thought you were. Because let me tell you something. You ain't gonna get nobody finer than that. You must think this is real court. You clean up jet because you're not a lawyer. I ain't really no damn judge either. Is that a pair of handcuffs with corn on the cob with a condom on it? I can't make you get married, but you finna have one hell of a part. And that's the way I see it.
That's our show. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week. Good night.